Hello folks, Michael from Evolve Ministry, and we are going to do questions and answers part 2, and this is me set.
Me! Okay, so we are going to, we just went to a random video. I went to Michael's video called Aerokinesis, Personal Energetic Control, and I just was kind of like scrolling through the questions, see if we could find anything. So Electric Romeo asks, I heard from somewhere that you need to give up sex and live a life of celibacy to get all these. Is that true? And he's referring to
The kinetics.
Yes.
Well, no. Clearly, I have a wife sitting next to me. This is something that used to be practiced by monks some time ago, and one of the reasons is because what they were trying to do was make training their number one priority. And so if a person had a lot of distractions, typically it wasn't the type of person that you could discipline or train to the fullest degree, because they had too many other things going on that allowed them to really become as good as they needed them to be at that time. So yeah, there's a certain thing to be said for it, because when you make any sort of thing your real discipline, your real practice, and you're going to put all of your focus and your effort into it, obviously you're going to excel quicker. And that really is the theory behind it. Plus, it's a way of disciplining a person. If human beings are very prone towards things of the flesh. They're prone towards constantly giving over to sensation rather than disciplining themselves to be the best that they can be at whatever discipline that they're working on. I remember when I was doing boxing, kickboxing, cage fighting and whatnot, one of the big things there was never have sex at least a week or 2 weeks before engaging in a fight, before accepting a fight. So the whole thing was it made your legs weak, so to speak. But really, what it boils down to is that if you're doing that, you're not in a very strong level of discipline in your mind. Now, given the fact that I have been disciplined for a good portion of my life, it's very easy to split up the situation. And
geniuses.
Yeah, these guys walking right down the middle of the road. But it's very easy for me to split up my attention processes and devote my time and energy and effort into training, and then I can still come home and be with my wife. As a matter of fact, my wife also trains. So if you have something that's going to constantly take your attention away from your discipline, and you're going to always put more effort into these distractions rather than the discipline itself, then you're probably not going to excel as much. That's what it all boils down to.
Very good. Very good response, I think. Okay, so the next question we're going to address is, Markle Nicholson asked, Michael, this seems really cool, so I ask you, why don't you start showing more and more people your technique?
Well, number one, anytime that you watch my video, you're actually seeing techniques, okay? Anytime you're watching the free stuff, techniques are being displayed right in front of you. Of course, I'm not telling you what I'm doing inside of my head. I'm not telling you how I'm, I guess the best word would be delivering the process and executing the process to its entirety. but you are actually seeing techniques. So now, that being said, one of the other things that I want to make really apparent here is that there was a time where I made my techniques available and for free on YouTube for a period of 5 years. Lisette remembers this as well. Okay, so the stuff was there, techniques were openly shared, and I had all sorts of tutorials on YouTube. But at that time, everyone was more interested in just watching the demonstrations. So most people didn't watch the tutorials. This was also during a time where there was a lot of people taking advantage of the fact that I was offering free stuff on YouTube. And I was experiencing, you know, becoming a poor man because I was throwing so much into putting stuff up there for free. I didn't have really the equipment that I needed to put up excellent content. And, you know, YouTube was starting to advance while my cameras, it just wasn't cutting it. And so the stuff was getting more and more blurry and whatnot. And so as I was trying to provide this stuff for free, the technology just didn't look very good and no one was helping. So what I did is that, you know, I decided to take down almost all of the videos that showed techniques, and then monetize the channel, then also create a school, an actual school where people could really learn the techniques properly. But of course, yes, you have to pay for it. Why? Because by paying for it, it affords me to have a life where I don't have to work 40 hours a week at some other job and then try to bust my butt and still provide free content for people. And so this also allowed me the ability to get more cameras, more updated equipment, and that way you're able to see the demonstrations in a way that they were not presented before, in a much better way, clearer. You're getting better 1080p, now you're getting better 4K. So
yeah, all that equipment is not cheap. We also do photography and video, and I mean, it's like computers, cameras, SD cards, batteries, lenses, multiple cameras for multiple things, from drones to GoPros, you know, cameras like DSLRs or whatever else the case may be. So
yeah,
there's a lot, and it's expensive.
Extremely expensive.
A lot of YouTubers out there know like what it is, but if you don't do this kind of stuff, you know, you don't really realize all the work and money that goes into it.
That's right. And there were a whole lot of people, and I mean a whole lot, you can probably find it on so many videos, they were like, I don't understand why you don't provide clear content. I don't understand why you know, that the videos are so crappy and they're not showing what they need to show. And then you got the people that are like, well, why don't you provide 2 camera views? Well, why don't you provide a drone view? And that they don't understand that when they're asking all these things, this stuff costs money.
Yeah, the drone itself was what, like over $1,000?
It was $1,800.
It was like $2,000 for just a drone. $2,000. I mean, if you're not just like rich and have money to throw around, that's a lot.
That's right.
We've had to like put in our money, like savings money, wedding money. I mean, we specifically asked for you know, money for camera equipment because we were trying to make that our priority. So like we literally have like sacrificed on like getting other things that we want to get or do with that money to like get equipment.
We didn't even get to go on a honeymoon because we took that money.
We took our honeymoon money
to put into this. Yeah. So that's what we're trying to say. There's a lot of people that are always like, how dare you make a profit off this stuff? Well, no. The profits that we make usually go right back into the system. So that way we're constantly giving better and better content. So, and there's so many people that, you know, they have that judgmental aspect of them that like, it's like, you know what, I'm not going to make myself starve for the noble purpose of giving you free content, especially when nothing is being given in return.
Yeah, or like even, I don't know if I want to say this, but like even having that much gratitude for it in return. So
that's just it, is that the techniques have been provided, the content has been provided, everything is up there for you to look at, but when it comes to the actual teachings, yes, you're going to have to pay for it. When it comes to the actual knowledge and how to execute it, you're going to have to pay for it.
yeah, it's like we're providing a service. So anything else that you are getting that's a service from any company, whether it be, you know,
Any product.
a product, like if you're going to the mall, you can't just be like, why can't I get these pair of jeans for free when the store is like asking for like $40 for it? Well, you don't have to get these jeans, so
You don't have to get this knowledge.
exactly. If you're not willing to like go out and buy the service, then you don't need to have it.
Precisely. So that is, you know, it's kind of answering 2 or 3 questions at once, but that's the truth of the fact.
Should we do one more? Or?
One more.
Okay. So we couldn't find any more good questions on that video, so we went to a different video to find a question. And Alexander Jones says, wow, amazing. I have a question though. If I were trying to use aerokinesis while a bunch of people who didn't believe I could do it, would their mindset affect my ability?
Okay. This is where training comes into play. Number 1, I've seen this happen on a multitude of occasions. Yes, that can happen. You see, what ends up happening is there's you have your particular belief in what you can either do or not do. Then you also have them, and they have their belief as to whether it exists or whether it doesn't exist. Okay? And sometimes, especially if you have a multitude of people who don't believe that it exists, that can actually get into your own personal head, and if you're not doing as well as that you think that you should be doing, eventually you start questioning yourself, and it starts getting worse and worse, and you get a decline. Now, I've watched this happen in front of Daniel on a few times. I've seen it happen with Joel. I've seen it happen with a lot of my students.
It's happened to me.
It's happened with Seth. So you can be in front of some people, and if those people are doubting you, it's very easy that you begin to start doubting yourself.
Yep.
And am I going to be able to do this? Am I going to be able to connect? And then you start thinking, uh-oh. You start hearing the voices go on in your head, and the more you start concentrating on those voices, the less you're concentrating on what's happening in front of you. Now, on a multitude of occasions, when I've watched people start to slide, they're going downhill, I've walked right in and saved that situation. Okay? The thing is I've been doing it for so long, and I am so, let's just say, it's second nature to me now, that people's opinions of it and their doubt doesn't stop me from being able to connect. It just doesn't, because I've been doing it for a long time. I've practiced it over and over and over again for that specific reason. So once you've gotten to a certain point of knowledge, you believe in yourself to the point where no one else's doubt, it doesn't matter. Okay? And then what you do is you switch that doubt immediately. I can't tell you how many people who were hardcore skeptics sat in front of me, and then afterwards they just didn't even know what to think. They didn't even know what to do with themselves, because they had never seen anything like that happen before. But when you are an inexperienced practitioner and you haven't been doing it long enough, and you don't know the techniques how to overcome that doubt within them and yourself, yes, you can fail. Yes, it can be a problem. It is all about your knowledge set, your skill set, the amount that you practice. I can tell you this, if you're one of those people that sit and only practice for 15 minutes a day or 30 minutes a day, maybe even just an hour a day, you're not going to be stable enough to be able to show others or practice in front of others. It's just not going to be the case. And you may have a day where it works perfectly for you, And then there may be another day where you go out to do the same thing and you're not able to connect. Because that's another thing, is the system that you're working with and within, it has its own thought processes. It has its own ability to say yes or no. And if you are not astute enough, if you're not strong enough in your techniques, the system itself can shut you down, let alone people's doubts. So I've watched people, and this is rampant all over YouTube. There are a ton of these practitioners on YouTube who rely entirely upon the energetic value of the environment. I've watched people that sometimes they only go out on the days where solar flares are hitting, or they make sure that they put themselves right next to an ocean because they know that the water coming off the ocean is going to do the work for them. Okay, the energy coming off the water of the ocean, excuse me. And so a lot of people will only go out when the wind is to their favor. And the thing is you have to be able to do this on days where there is no wind whatsoever. And so, like I said, what is most important is that you are very strong and sound in the techniques, and that you work constantly and consistently. And you work on days where it's windy and you try to calm it down. You work on days where it's not windy and you try to bring it up. That's how this operates. And that's just with aerokinesis, by the way. You got a multitude of other things that you have to concern yourself with the other kinetics. All right? And that is this particular session. Love you.